What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports Through the Mail Thursdays. Today I'm going to share with you 3 envelopes that I just recently got back in the mail. So let me just hop right into these and open them up and see who we got. Alright, this first one stays with the theme of Cardinals and Cubs. I bought a lot of Cubs Cardinal cards a little while back, and I sent these to Mr. Frank DiPino on 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th one as an Astro that I found. Makes 5. Frank DiPino was a longtime lefty reliever that spent, I believe, 12 years in the majors. He spent the most time with the Houston Astros. Originally drafted by, let's see here, he was drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers. However, he did not appear in the majors for the Brewers because he was traded in 1982 for Hall of Famer Don Sutton. So that's how Frank DiPino became an Astro, and Don Sutton became a Milwaukee Brewer. So he spent a few seasons with the Astros. In total, he was with the Astros 5 years. But in 1986, before the trading deadline, the Chicago Cubs decided to make a trade to the Astros for Davey Lopes. So that's how Davey Lopes became a Houston Astro. Frank DiPino became a Cub. So after a few seasons with the Cubs, in 1988, he was granted free agency, and he signed as a free agent with the St. Louis Cardinals, as you see above. Now overall, in his career, he had 35 wins and 38 losses. He was primarily used as a lefty specialist type of pitcher, as a lefty. Overall, his ERA was 3.83, which is right in the, it's not great, but it's not bad, as a lefty reliever. That's where you kind of want to be, as a major league relief pitcher. Great lefty for a long time. Played during the era where there's tons of cards of him out there. He spent a couple seasons in St. Louis, 3 years. Then he played 1 year with the Royals and was let go. Don't know if there's any Royals cards out there of him, but there's definitely plenty of Cubs and Cardinals ones and Astros cards out there. So thank you, Mr. DiPino. Really appreciate adding those to my collection. All right, the next guy that we're going to talk about is former major leaguer Kevin Romine on 1, 2, 3, and 4. Boston Red Sox. So if you're a Red Sox fan, you definitely know this guy from the late 80s, early 90s. Kevin Romine was one of those guys that was drafted 3 times. He was that good of a player. He was drafted by the California Angels in the 3rd round in 1980. The Phillies made him a first-round choice the following year, and he still didn't sign. And finally, the following year after that, 1982, the Boston Red Sox took him in the 2nd round, where he did sign. He was playing college baseball at Arizona State University. Obviously, when the Angels drafted him, that was probably out of high school. He chose to go to Arizona State, where he played. He is the father of Andrew Romine and Austin Romine. If you guys are familiar with those 2 players, he is their father, so that'd be a good father-son duo, or more than a duo, I guess. Father-sons combo that you could try to get. He made it up to the majors with Boston after spending some time in the minors in 1985. He spent his entire pro career with the Boston Red Sox from 1985 to 1991. He never was a starter. He was always kind of the 4th outfielder, the defensive replacement, that type of player. Overall, he has a lifetime 250 batting average, 251, excuse me. and 5 career home runs, appearing in 331 games. Over a 7-year span. That tells me that he was the 4th outfielder. He was up and down in the majors, in the minors, until finally he called it a career after the 91 season. He's a real good signer about through the mails. He's got a lot of cards out there ranging from 85 to 91. I am going to point out a picture of a card that is an error card. I want to say it's an 89 Fleer. I will correct that if I'm wrong. But he's pictured, or how do I say this? He's not pictured on the 89 Fleer card, and somebody else is, and I'll list who it is down here on the screen. But he will not sign that card. So if you have that 1989 Fleer, I believe it is, I will show a picture of it. Whatever you do, do not send him that card because he will not sign it. He will just simply send it back to you unsigned. And he might say, he might write a note saying that's not me on the card or whatever. But from what I understand, he won't sign that card even if you send it to him or ask him to sign it. So thank you, Mr. Romine. Really appreciate the extra, time he took to sign these, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, this one I'm pretty excited about because I see this guy as a potential manager someday. And that is former Pittsburgh Pirate Jay Bell on 1, 2, 3, 4, and I really like this one, a 5th American flag card. This is a 94 Fleer, I believe, right? All-Star card. When he made the All-Star team. Pretty sweet card. So Jay Bell, who is he? Jay Bell was actually a very good player for a very long time. He was a first-round pick of the Minnesota Twins in the 1984 draft out of high school. He never played for the Twins, and he was actually traded for another Hall of Famer. This is a theme for Burt Blyleven from the Cleveland Indians. So Frank DiPino was traded for Don Sutton. Jay Bell was traded for Burt Blyleven. So that's how Burt Blyleven became a Twin. The Indians then brought him up, and he played a few seasons with the Indians before they traded him to the Pittsburgh Pirates, which is where he really came into his own. After he spent his time with the Pirates, which was the majority of his career, he was then later traded to the Kansas City Royals along with Jeff King for some minor leaguers, basically. After the time with the Royals, he elected to sign as a free agent with the new expansion Arizona Diamondbacks, and then he played for the Mets to finish out his career. So, 2-time All-Star, once with the Arizona Diamondbacks and once with the Pittsburgh Pirates, as this card indicates. He's a lifetime, what's his lifetime batting average? 265 hitter, which is pretty good for a shortstop. 195 home runs, which is good for a shortstop. And also was a pretty good defensive player as well. He played a total of 18 years in the majors, mostly with the Pittsburgh Pirates, where he found his best success. 5 years with the Arizona Diamondbacks. 3 years with the Indians, as we discussed. 1 year with the Royals, and 1 year with the Mets. But he played from 1986, so 87 roughly, all the way to 2003. So if you have cards from 86 to 93, odds are you got a Jay Bell card somewhere. He's in every set, tops, Donruss, Fleer, Upper Deck, every set imaginable from basically 1987 up, I believe. I want to say his rookie card was an 87, maybe 88. I might be off by a year. I know for sure he has an 88 tops. I'm not sure about the 87 sets. But basically from 88 to 2003, you can find a Jay Bell card probably. So the cool thing about Jay Bell is he's been working as a coach since his retirement. He's worked for various minor league staffs, and he is currently a AAA manager with probably the promises of one day being a major league manager. So if you get an opportunity to see J Bell in the minor leagues, I would definitely consider doing so. I hear he's a very hospitable autographer in person. I've never met him in person. I believe I've seen him play in person. I want to say I went to a Pirates game when he was a Pirate and saw him play, but I never got his autograph. Obviously, getting him through the mail is a huge success. This is one of the best underrated shortstops from the 1990s. I mean, when you had the likes of Derek Jeter, Nomar Garciaparra, the early start of Miguel Tejada at the end of the 90s, Ozzie Smith, on down the list. J Bell often gets overlooked. Barry Larkin, can't forget Barry Larkin. J Bell is kind of mixed in that shuffle, and when Barry Larkin and Ozzie Smith are your counterparts, it's going to be pretty hard to break a National League All-Star roster when you're competing against those guys. And we can't forget, of course, Cal Ripken Jr., who was, finishing up his career in the mid-90s. So, I mean, there are so many great shortstops, from that era. Omar Vizquel comes to mind. I mean, there's just so many guys that were playing during that era that were just great ball players. And I'm not going to say J Bell's a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but he was a very good player. If he wasn't, he wouldn't have played as long as he did in the majors. I mean, so I wish Mr. Bell the best. I hope he gets his chance to manage in the majors, if not at least coach in the majors, maybe as a bench coach or a third base coach or whatever, and maybe work his way up to managing. So thank you again, Mr. Romine and Mr. DiPino, for signing, and of course Mr. Bell. This is a great addition to my collection. I grew up watching all of you guys play. You were all cherished memories in my database, I guess you would say. Each and every one of you is on RBI Baseball on the Nintendo. And that's RBI Baseball, the old version, not the current version, that you can buy for your Xbox or your PS4 or whatever. But we're talking about the old school RBI Baseball 2 and 3. All three of these guys were on their respective teams on that game. So thanks for signing, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed another video and look forward to your comments below.